Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. My name is Taya and this is Taya's Turning Pages. So today we'll be discussing some recommendations as well as books that I would love to get to during the winter season. And I actually mentioned in my 2023 reading / channel goals video that I would love to film and upload more recommendations videos. So here we are. This is the first Rex video that I have for 2023 and I'm really excited about that. Now please keep in mind that some of these books that I'm going to show you, I haven't read them yet. I still have them on my TBR. So I will be reading the synopses for some of them, but like I said, just keep in mind that I haven't read all of these yet. But I still wanted to recommend them to not only put them on your radar, just in case if you haven't heard of them, also because they do tie in very nicely with the winter season. With all of that out of the way, let's get started. The first book that I have here I feel like is a winter recommendation staple, and it is The Hunting Party by Lucy Foley. So this one I think is an Agatha Christie and then there were none retelling. I know that this takes place in the Scottish wilderness and I'm pretty sure these group of friends are staying in a cabin, and like I said, it's very snowy and very isolated. So on the back here it says, a New Year's reunion in the remote Scottish wilderness. The beautiful one, the golden one, the volatile one, the new parents, the quiet one, the city boy, and the outsider. One of these friends is a murderer, and one will make it out alive. For some reason, I've been stalling and procrastinating on picking up this book, but I'm really going to try to get to it this winter season because I've had it on my TBR for so long, like I mentioned, and it doesn't look like it's that long, and I know that this is one of Lucy Foley's more popular books. I really hope that I enjoy this one, and to be honest, these and then there were none retellings are very hit or miss for me. There are some books that follow this formula, and they have become some of my favorite books of all time, and then there are other books that follow this formula and I just feel like they were not executed well and they were a little bit goofy. So I really hope that I enjoyed this one, like I said, and this will prompt me to pick up more by Lucy Foley in the future. The next book that I have here is Breathless by Amy McCulloch. So I actually read this book last year and I ended up really enjoying it and I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. So this story follows a journalist named Cecily, and Cecily works for this travel / outdoors magazine. She's looking for her next story, but she doesn't have to look for long because this famous alpinist / mountain climber named Charles actually grants Cecily the opportunity to interview him. And this is a big deal because Charles does not just let anybody interview him. He's just one of those figures that is very elusive and just doesn't really interact with the media all like that. He does give Cecily the opportunity to interview him as long as Cecily joins him on one of his expeditions / climbing missions. But Cecily is very hesitant on joining Charles on this expedition because Cecily has had some not so great mountain climbing experiences in the past and she's not really all that skilled at climbing mountains, but she knows that this is the opportunity of a lifetime to interview Charles. So she puts all of those worries aside and joins Charles on this mission. But once Cecily, Charles, and these other mountain climbers that are with them start to embark on this journey, Cecily realizes that there is a killer on the mountain and the story takes off from there. Like I said, I read this last year and I really enjoyed it. I thought Amy McCulloch did a phenomenal job with the atmosphere of this book. I truly felt as though I was on the mountain with Cecily and these other climbers dealing with all of the elements and the bitter cold. So if you're one of those readers who loves and appreciates a good atmospheric snowy book, then this is the one for you. Now please keep in mind that the author is actually a mountain climber, and so there are a lot of chapters and dialogue where the characters go into extensive detail about what you need in order to be a successful mountain climber. So if you're not interested in really learning all of the intricacies of climbing a mountain and the equipment that you'll need and the training and the preparation that goes into all of that, then just keep that in mind. But all in all, I still thought that this was a solid thriller, and again, I still thought it was very atmospheric and snowy. And honestly, the plot and the concept for this book still stands out to me because could you imagine being high up on a mountain? I'm talking thousands and thousands of meters up where the air is getting thinner and you're slowly losing oxygen, and while you're dealing with all of that and also not trying to fall off of the mountain, there is a killer on the loose. I cannot imagine, like, that is one of the most horrifying and scariest things that I have ever thought about or read about, and so I really like this book for that concept alone. I just thought it was very refreshing and very unique. The next book that I have here is Nobody But Us by Laurie Van Rensburg. So this is another book that is on my TBR that I'm really hoping that I can get to during the winter season because as you can see by the cover, this is very snowy, very isolated, and it's giving cabin in the woods, and I love to see it. And on the front here it says, it's the perfect escape with no way out. He's not who he says he is. Then again, neither is she. That's how you kick off a synopsis. Stephen Harding is a handsome, well-respected professor. Ellie Masterson is a wide-eyed grad student. Together, they are driving south from New York for their first vacation, 3 days in an isolated cabin far from the city. Ahead of them, the promise of long, dark nights and the chance to get to know each other better, away from prying eyes. It should be a perfect romantic getaway for two, but when a snowstorm strands them in the house, each realizes the other harbors a dangerous secret, and soon it becomes clear one of them won't escape the weekend alive. This just sounds like this is the love child of 56 Days by Catherine Ryan Howard and Rock, Paper, Scissors by Alice Feeney. I love Rock, Paper, Scissors. That's one of my favorite thrillers of all time, and that's also another great snowy winter book recommendation. I did not include it in this video just because I have included that book in so many of my other recommendations videos, so I just decided to forgo that one. But just know that's another great book to read during the winter season. And then as for 56 Days by Catherine Ryan Howard, I haven't read that yet, but I know the plot and the premise for that book, and it sounds very similar to this one, where two people go in a house and only one makes it out alive. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the last two books that I have on this list, and I don't have the physical copies of them yet, but they're on their way to me. And the first book that I wanted to talk about is Snowflake by Nia Forster. So of course I had to plug Snowflake because, spoiler alert, this is the first book that I read for the month of January, and I loved it so much, and it definitely delivered on these snowy atmospheric vibes. So this story follows our two characters, Cal and Asha, and both Cal and Asha are students that attend Penn State. Starting with Cal, Cal is actually an athlete, and he is on the track team, and he is training to become an Olympic athlete one day. And on the flip side of that, you have his love interest named Asha, and Asha is very quiet, very shy, and very timid into herself, but both Cal and Asha live in the same apartment complex, and they are neighbors, so they live right across the hall from one another, but they never really interacted or anything like that because they do run in different social circles. Both Cal and Asha have taken note of one another. Cal has always wondered why he doesn't really see Asha on campus like that, and Asha has always taken note of Cal. She has always found him attractive, but she steers clear of him because he is an athlete, and so naturally he is a player. But fast forward, Thanksgiving break approaches, and both Cal and Asha decide to stay behind in their apartments for different reasons, but the power in their apartment complex actually ends up getting knocked out. Cal and Asha do decide to spend time together because there's really nothing else they can do with the power being knocked out, and one thing leads to another, and the story takes off from there. So this has truly become one of my favorite romances that I have read for 2023, and I love that I started the year off with a bang reading this gem, and this definitely delivered on the snowy atmosphere because of the snowstorm. Also just because the story is set at Penn State, and I mentioned in my January TBR video where I talked about this book that I actually attended Penn State, and so I'm very familiar with how cold it gets up in State College. That's where Penn State is, and so I was able to envision all of the things that both Asha and Cal were going through, and I could only imagine just how cold they were, especially with the power being knocked out. That's one thing that you did not want when you were up there, was your power to be knocked out, because the temperatures drop dramatically and drastically up there, especially because Penn State is very close to the Poconos, so the temperature changes up there are nothing to play with, and they're nothing like how they are in Philly. I just think that this book is perfect to read during the winter season. So if you were in the market for a snowed in steamy romance, this is the book for you. And the last book that I have here is Whiteout by Danielle Clayton, Ashley Woodfolk, Nicola Yoon, Tiffany D. Jackson, Angie Thomas, and Nick Stowe. So this is actually the follow-up to Blackout by these same authors. So Blackout actually takes place during the summertime, and this is a collection of short stories that follows a multitude of young Black teenagers in New York City during the summer while they're experiencing a blackout. So like I said, Whiteout is a follow-up of this book, but Whiteout takes place in Atlanta, and it says right here, Atlanta is blanketed with snow just before Christmas, but the warmth of young love just might melt the ice in this novel of interwoven narratives. Black joy and cozy sparkling romance by the same unbeatable team of authors who wrote Blackout. This is another book that I'm really excited to read. I cannot wait to get to this one. I didn't talk about this in my January TBR video, but I do plan on reading Whiteout this month in January because this is the book club pick for Lily Reads, which is hosted by Kenya from As Told by Kenya. So I'm really happy that Kenya chose this for this month's book club pick. I loved Blackout. I thought that this story was so sweet, so wholesome, and very atmospheric, and was right on time for summer. And I just have a feeling that Whiteout is going to be the same way. I also love the fact that it takes place in Atlanta, and I can't wait to see how the story unfolds because I know when it comes to the South and snow, it's always an interesting time. A lot of southern states don't have the same emergency and like snow plans that the North does, because this is what we deal with on a yearly basis, but obviously when it comes to the South, they don't. So I'm just really interested to see how this all works out and what our characters are going to have to go through. All right, y'all, and those are all of the winter recs that I had to share with you today. Now keep in mind that there are other winter books that I have read and that I would recommend, but I've talked about them so much in so many of my other videos, so I didn't want to spend too much time on them. I will just call them out out here very quickly. No Exit by Taylor Adams and Rock, Paper, Scissors by Alice Feeney, like I mentioned earlier. So I didn't want to include them again just because, like I said, I feel like they appear in every Booktubers winter recs videos for good reason, but I just didn't feel like harping on them again. But definitely add those to your TBR if you haven't already, because both of those books really deliver on the atmosphere for sure. All right, well, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Definitely make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps me my channel out. And also comment down below some of your winter recs. I would love to know. And lastly, please make sure you follow me on Bookstagram as well as Storygraph. I will leave all of that information linked down below, as well as at the end of the video. And now at the beginning of the video, like I always do, I will see you guys in my next video.